Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I am joined by Kevin Graham, where we'll be discussing a whole host of subjects. First and foremost, obviously, will be the victory over Ross County over the weekend up in the north. Before we do that, we were really saddened to hear of the passing of Des McElroy. You may have seen Des with his daughter just a few weeks ago on A Celtic State of Mind, talking about his love of Celtic Football Club, and Des very sadly passed away after a brave battle against cancer. It got him the fourth time, so all our thoughts and prayers are with Des's family and friends at this time. He was a very popular Celtic supporter, so please keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers. I'm going to be joined just in a moment by Kevin Graham, and welcome Kevin to the show. What kept you?
Not just traffic, Paul. Just the usual family life traffic, just stuff like that. But I'm here now.
Well, listen, it's always welcome. It's always a welcome sight to have Kevin Graham in A State of Mind studios. So, as I was just saying there, Kevin, Des McElroy, our thoughts and prayers are with Des's family. He joined us 3 weeks ago and very sadly passed away yesterday. We will be talking about Des's favourite subject, the famous Glasgow Celtic. First and foremost, tell us about that woeful first half performance at the weekend.
Well, I can't believe the traction that comment got.
I can.
Especially, you look at the first half. We went 1-0 up via the penalty kick, and we started off okay, but the formation didn't work for large periods of that first half, especially defensively. For me, when you're having a look at it defensively, and this is just me looking at it without an analytical mind, a tactical mind, the fact is Ross County looked like they could score any time they got near to our box. We had no defensive cover on either side. And after the game, and this for me backs up my point, after the game, Neil Lennon says they had to adjust it at half-time. We were a bit off it in the first half. Shane Duffy says we were a bit off it in the first half and we had to adjust stuff at half-time. Our goalkeeper, Barkas, says it today. We were a bit off it. We're going to get a wee while to get used to each other. We were a bit off it in the first half. Every report I've read about the game says Ross County were unlucky, not to go in at half-time, at least having scored once. And for me, the fact is, if you look at that first half, if your goalkeeper is man of the match or is the player of the match in that first half, it shows that there's something wrong.
So what was wrong then?
The full-backs, the wing-backs, there was no defensive cover whatsoever. Our back three were constantly exposed in the first half. Second half was completely different.
So what was actually changed? You're saying there about, we've gone in 2-0 up at half time.
Which is great, which I did say in my message, which I did say in the comment, which I says, fantastic result, but I've still got, I thought the performance was woeful in the first half. Certain aspects of the performance.
Woeful?
Was woeful.
Do you not think that was a wee bit strong?
It made me mournful. It made me worried. So woeful means so many things to so many different people.
Well, when I hear somebody calling a performance woeful, it's normally meaning that it was poor. I wouldn't have described it as poor. With regards to the change at the back, I think it's for the best long term, playing with the three at the back. When we were approaching the game last week, Kevin, we were speaking about how we would line up if we had three at the back. It seems kind of obvious to me, but what I've been thinking since then, if we're going with three, which I hope we will, for the best part, you've also got to have the adaptability and the personnel to go back to a back four at some stage. There's going to be occasions where you need to shore up the defence. We're playing in 5 different tournaments this season, as I keep going on about, and there's going to be occasions maybe in Europe away from home and you maybe go to a flat back four for periods of a game. So I think now, when you're looking at that centre half position, and that was the best three, if you ask me, that we started with against Ross County. You've also got good coverage with El Hamid, who I rate highly. I think he's cool as a cucumber, a wee bit too cool when Ferencváros scored that second goal. And I was critical of him because I think he should have defended that better. And you've also got Beaton, who I think you mentioned last week, we don't even comment about Beaton when we're looking at midfield options these days. But he showed in the international game, particularly the one against Scotland, that he's competent there. He's playing at a high level there. So we've got good cover at the back. I guess this leads us on to one of the other points I've got here in relation to the fullbacks. So you reckon they didn't have enough cover, obviously, with the two wing backs, as we call them, in Forrest and in Frimpong. It was good to see Frimpong again, offensively. I think that's obviously his forte. It definitely is Forrest as well, but Forrest is a hard worker. What was done, do you think, then, to change it at half time, whereby it certainly did seem to solidify it in the second half?
I think maybe they just got a bit tighter with what they were doing, and they got more used to what Ross County were doing to them. I mean, what Ross County done to them, I was out just before the games kicked off, and I was listening to Pat Bonner, and Pat Bonner predicted how Ross County would play, and they would get joy down the flanks, and they got joy down the flanks in the first half. I watched the highlights of Ross County against Dundee United a couple of weeks ago, and we gave up as many chances as what Dundee United did against Ross County in that first half. So at that point, there is a problem. So whatever the management done, maybe it was a switch with the centre halves. Maybe they just get more alive to the fact is they're going to be wide open. But don't get me wrong, we looked like we could score any time we went forward as well.
That's the beauty of that formation, isn't it?
That's the beauty of that formation. But there is going to be times where our keeper's not going to pull us out. I mean, even when we went 2-0 up, they always say the third goal in a game is dangerous. And I fear if Ross County would have got that one goal, then we could have been on the rack, because we did look that open.
I don't think I was overly, harsh on your comments on a personal level, Kevin, because if you win 5-0, to be honest with you, if there was any issues in the first half, they've been ironed out quite clearly.
Definitely.
But when you're playing with three at the back, and again, I'm not going to get into the tactical element. The simple, basic, fundamental thing that you would need to do with three at the back is one of your central defenders is looking after the left-hand side of the pitch and vice versa on the right. And that's obviously how you line up. So Forrest and Frimpong, they're not going to do the whole shift themselves up and down the right and the left. And that is something that the defence need to kind of battle with. They are going to have to cover the left and the right. And then you've also covered from some of the other midfield players. And, we know how good defensively Callum McGregor can be. And Scott Brown, in his advancing age. We talk about him as if he's old, Kevin. He's a lot younger than me. And these people can also cover that area of the pitch. So really, I think it was just adapting to not just the new formation, but the fact that you've got a new pivot at centre-half as well, who we'll go on to speak about in Shane Duffy. It's easy for me to say with hindsight, how could it be woeful? We won 5-0. There was moments in that first half where you felt Ross County were opening up the defence far too easily. But thankfully, between the three defenders in Barkas, and obviously with Lenny's instructions at half-time, they were able to overcome it. And hopefully in the coming weeks, we stick to that. I mean, we're going out there on Wednesday night. We'll talk a wee bit about St Mirren on Wednesday. Another away game. Do you go out and still play with three at the back? I would.
Definitely, but I think where the choices need to get made on Wednesday night is not the three at the back, it's not the formation, it's probably the personnel and the wing backs and in the middle of the park, just with the number of games that we've got coming up. It was really interesting and really good to see Lennon using all his subs, giving guys run out, giving guys game time into the legs. So I think he's got a decision to make in the wing backs and also in the centre midfield area. For going forward, managing the squad.
Well, that's it.
And he is going to be guided by numbers. He'll be guided by the sports science. He'll be guided by the coaches. He'll be guided by the players himself. I mean, you look at Brown. He took Brown off.
He looked quite happy to be coming off.
He did look quite happy to be coming off. Is he looking forward to going to Paisley on Wednesday night? I'm sure he is. I'm sure he would love to play, but his body might be telling him something else. The science guys might be telling Neil, John and Mr. Stratton.
Gavin,
I can remember.
Seeing how you were going for Christian names there.
they might be telling him something else. They might be saying, look, we've got European qualifier coming up as well.
Yeah.
We've got a tough game at the weekend. So we need to start utilising the squad. And
We do.
And it might be something, yes, you don't want to change the team after a 5-0 victory, but there could be a reason for changing it. Not the formation, but if that's the formation, it was really interesting to hear Lennon saying that's his preferred formation after, for what we heard, it wasn't his preferred formation, and nothing personnel-wise has really changed in the wing-backs area to say it's all of a sudden going to become more defensive solid. So he says that's his favourite formation, so you're going to say yes, that he is going to use it. But what does it give us? It gave us brilliant forward play. Ajeti dropping deep.
And we've
Edouard
got
dropping
those
deep.
players that thrived.
Cham was absolutely immense just with those extra bodies round about him. The movement that we had, I mean, as I have previously says, we did look like we were going to score any time we got near the Ross County box. And that was fantastic to watch. Being a Celtic fan, that's what you want to see. But sometimes you just don't want to see yourself being cut open quite easily. And there is stuff that we'll need to work on. Lennon did say that, Duffy says that, Barkas says that. So I don't think I was saying anything wrong. I'm quite happy that there's guys who have made a living in the game, have agreed that the first half wasn't great. But then I put myself out here to be ridiculed, and if people want to ridicule
Nobody's
me,
ridiculing you.
and there was people agreed, and there was viewers agreed on the chat at the exact same time as me as well. And I can show you loads of messages as well on my phone with folk going.
You've come in with evidence.
Yes, I've came in with evidence,
Kevin,
to back up my.
there will be no need for that. That's why we're here. The comments are flowing via Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And obviously, looking at that first half, I could see that there was flaws, but at the same time, you've got a defence blending, moulding, getting together, understanding a new goalkeeper. And I think we now have the three centre-halves. If we can keep the three fit and the goalkeeper behind them, for me, there was loads of promise there. Barkas made a lot of good saves. You know, he's coming for criticism. Let's talk about that. People who are, as you say, making a living by making these kinds of comments. Kevin, they were criticising Barkas. We said before the game, it seemed a bit unfair that he all of a sudden became a target. How impressed were you at the weekend with Barkas' performance?
Unfortunately for Barkas, we had to have a game when we were open for us to actually see what he can do. It's no the Fraser Foster situation where we knew what Big Fraser can do. We needed Barkas to have a game where he had stuff to do, and he done it very, very well. He's very light on his feet. He's very agile. He doesn't like palming things very much. He's got a good catch of the ball as well. He looks a very technically easy on the eye goalkeeper. There's nothing flapping about him, and he seems very calm. He moves the ball far quicker than Craig Gordon and also Fraser Foster. He seems to have more what could you say, an outfielder's vision when moving that ball quickly. But what you want to do, you want your goalkeeper to save goals and to save you points. And on Saturday, he shows that he's possibly got that in his locker.
I mean, I felt that the criticism was unfair.
It was unfair.
To Barkas, they went over the top with that.
Definitely.
Right? The Ferencvaros game, we can always return to that. This is going to be a game we'll probably return to throughout the season because it was so disappointing. And Ferencvaros beat us on merit, so I can't sit here and say we're better than them. But there's been occasions in the past, Kevin, Cluj, AEK Athens, where you see how that team progresses, you see how Celtic get it together in the subsequent months. And it's a regret that you've been put out to a team like Ferencvaros, Athens, etc., because you actually believe Celtic are a better side. So that's disappointing. I don't blame Barkas for the second goal in that game, although I think he should have done better at his near post. That's the only criticism I've made of the new goalkeeper. And I think that he had a good performance at the weekend. A big part of that for me is you've got two ball-playing centre-halves in Julien and Ayer. We now have Big Duffy in there, who doesn't care about shoving his own players at the road just to get to the ball, as he showed when he scored the goal.
And his own player claimed for a penalty.
Yeah, brilliant. Love it. But Shane Duffy, we'll chat a wee bit about Shane, but before we do it, I've got to say, growing up, you had your favourite Celtic players, didn't you? And I've said to you before, the first Celtic player I ever wrote to was Davy Provan, and he sent me a signed photograph, which I still have. And there's a few others that you always got a response, which was great. So I've got signed pictures of Lex Bailey and all that at home. However, I would say if I was to pick a player at the moment at Celtic who I have an affinity with and who I would say is my favourite player, it's not always on ability, right? It's Leigh Griffiths. He's the guy that I want to see in the hoops, scoring goals, doing what he does best. And I've got a lot of sympathy for him, everything that's happened, everything he's come through. But we're still not seeing him in the squad, right? He's not on the bench at the moment. He's obviously recovering from the calf strain that has kept him out of the action for a few weeks. When you're looking at that lineup, Edouard is the absolute star. Everybody knows that. We'll talk about some of the interest that's flying around Edouard at the moment, Arsenal being the latest suitors. You've then got Ajeti, who seems to have got a wee bit fitter over the international break. He looks a player. He's got the finishing quality of your typical 12-yard box striker, a la Gary Hooper. He seemed to be working quite well back defensively, which it was great to see. And then Klimala comes on, the man that you call a Legia Warsaw Ultra. He misses one, he scores one. He blesses himself. Everybody's happy. So your three strikers score a goal. But where is our Leigh? Because he's the boy I want to see coming off the bench. I want to see him back in amongst the action. Is there a place still? Do we need the four strikers? I would say yeah, particularly when you're playing two up front. At the moment, your first choices are Edouard and Ajeti, and that's just basically based on form and the fact that they're playing and they're scoring. Then I still think, even though Klimala's working hard, and even though he's coming in and scoring the odd goal here and there, and he's not getting many minutes, so to be fair to him, I still want Griffiths to be in there shouting for a jersey. Are we going to see that? Is that on the horizon?
Every week it goes by, and every week that he doesn't get anywhere near the squad and he doesn't seem to be getting anywhere near fitness, it seems further and further away. When you look at the strikers that did come on at the weekend, I mean, Ella Husey also ended up playing through the middle.
Ella Husey.
I'm going to keep.
Can I just say, for the benefit of the people that are listening in Malaysia and that it's El Yunusi.
Ella Husey.
Just in case they didn't speak rap block.
As I said to you before, it's my mind now. Somebody pointed it out to me. My mind just subconsciously.
I didn't just get you in here so I can slag you off,
I'm beginning to feel that way. I'm beginning to feel like.
Can we just call him Mo?
Mo. We'll just call him.
Oh, maybe
Mo.
No, eh?
No, we're past that.
All right.
We're past that.
All right.
I've said to you before, my therapy sessions are talking about Mo Johnson on this podcast.
Oh, dear.
So
you brought him up again.
I've brought him up again.
Right.
That was you brought him up.
So Mo,
he played through the middle as well. Mm-hmm. So if you're saying that you need four, there's your four there. We were interested about what Mo's best position was. And did we find it on Saturday? Coming off as an impact sub, as a second striker.
Well,
you look at the skill and the technique he had with
the
goal that he scored against Northern Ireland in the middle of the week. Mm-hmm. You look where he came to prominence with us when he played for Mulder, scored 2 goals, playing through the middle. He had a partnership with Ajeti at Bal. So have we maybe just been trying to fit him in the wrong position? But getting back to Leigh, I don't see him being even that fourth choice striker. I think he'll be, by the time we get to October the 5th, Leigh Griffiths will no longer be a Celtic player.
Right, and this isn't just for the basis of an argument. I'm going to disagree with you. Now, I know all week last week I was preparing Celtic fans for the return of ball and goalie, and that's not going to happen. But I think the Leigh Griffiths situation is completely different, right? I think he will return as a Celtic player. I can't see Celtic selling him to another Scottish club simply because there's not another Scottish club could afford Leigh Griffiths. And obviously you then think, well, what about a loan deal? What type of club would Leigh Griffiths fit in well at? It needs to be one of the top end clubs, obviously. Hibs are flying. He's a Hibs boy, we know that. Would it be a good fit? Probably, but I don't want him playing for Hibs. I want him playing for Celtic. I still look at Leigh Griffiths as a Celtic player. I think we've come this far, Kevin. he'll get back in that side, and I hope that's the case. I don't want, and by the way, I take on board what you said about El Yunusi, because I've been standing up for El Yunusi all season. Perhaps his best position isn't out wide left, and I certainly don't think that he showed it this season out there. But with El Yunusi in the centre, I look at him more in your Ryan Christie stroke Encham kind of role, behind the strikers, rather than a second striker. And I know he's played there. So El Yunusi, I don't think that makes any difference to the fact that we definitely need 4 strikers, so if you're playing 2 up front. Injuries, form, everything else. And I still think Leigh Griffiths, I still want him to be part of a historic season. And I'm not getting over sentimental about it. There's no reason why he can't return to the fold. And actually, there's no reason why Rogic can't return to the fold now that his transfer's broken down as well, Kevin. So there's 2 guys that, if you were to bring the 2 players into this squad, you'd be happy. We've got them there. Let's utilise them.
Definitely, but the weight of evidence is against what we want, what yourself want, and I'm maybe dealing with what I see with the evidence provided. And the evidence provided
is that on your phone as well?
Huh?
Is that evidence on your phone as well?
No, it's just made up in my head. The evidence that I've completely made up and fabricated points to that Thomas is no got a future at Celtic.
You refer to all the Celtic players with first names these days?
I know them all, eh?
Thomas.
No.
It's like when you see people referring to Peter Lawwell as Peter on Twitter, and you think, all right.
I've seen him referred to a lot worse on Twitter, actually. And,
so you don't think Thomas Rogic has a part to play? I don't know why I'm calling him Thomas. Tommy Rogic has a part to play at Celtic Park.
I'm starting a trend.
You don't think he's got a part to play?
No, I think he won't be a Celtic player by October the 6th.
Right, we've got 5 tournaments to play for, 5 trophies to play for this season, right? 2 Scottish Cups. You're going to need a deep squad. You definitely are. You look over the last few seasons at the injuries that Celtic have had. There's been players that have been out of the game for months on end. You're going to need quality and depth, strength and depth. If, for example, before the transfer window slams shut, Tom Rogic and Leigh Griffiths goes, if Celtic were to replace them, like for like in terms of quality, they're big buys. Why not keep what we've got? We know what they can do. It's not as though they're over the hill. Tom Rogic's not played as much as he should have done in the last 2 seasons. And particularly under Neil Lennon as it happens. And Leigh Griffiths, for other reasons, hasn't played as much as we would have liked. But if you get those 2 players firing on all cylinders, Kevin, they could be great additions to back into our squad. Rather than trying to find another player, £2-3 million, however it might be. I see those 2 as being big losses if we let them go.
You maybe
to the deeper, wider squad, I mean.
To the deeper, wider squad, I get your point, but you maybe answered your own argument there by saying if we can get them firing on all cylinders.
And why shouldn't we?
That is a massive if.
Leigh Griffiths came back
based with the evidence that we actually have.
Well, he came back last season.
18 months.
Came back last season. There would have been no one more frustrated than Leigh Griffiths in that Celtic side when the season was curtailed early, because he started scoring goals again. He was back in his side. He was developing a partnership with Edouard. This season, you ask, what exactly has he done wrong? No, seriously, what's he done wrong? So he doesn't go to France. He stays at home for further conditioning work, as did Tommy Rogic, the bold Thomas, and various other players. It was there maybe five players left behind to now, and we know, because of the people that we've spoken to in the show, that he worked hard during the period when the rest of the squad were in France. There was then a picture that appeared on social media. He's in his own home, I believe, at his own partner's birthday gathering, crucified, because it was Leigh Griffiths, crucified, right? I would like to believe, and I'm not daft, right, that he has got a calf strain, that he will come back, and he will, at the moment, he'll be the fourth choice, and that's simply because he what the other three are doing, Klimala included, and then it's down to Leigh Griffiths to become second choice, and then start pushing for the jersey. I'm not giving up on Leigh Griffiths yet.
As I said, And I can understand where you're coming from. It's a nostalgia. You love Leigh like one of those wayward wee cousins that you meet at weddings every so often. Who, what you been up to this week? And he's a cracking wee guy. He gets his drinks at the bar, but he goes out and steals motors and stuff like that.
Leigh Griffiths, just for the benefit of the tape, is we're not accusing him of stealing motors here, Kevin. I love Leigh Griffiths because he's ability. More than anything. I said I have an affinity with him. Yeah, I do. I love the fact that...
I have an affinity with him because he is a fan. He understands what we go through. Because he is dyed in the wool, used to go...
I love the fact he's a working class laddie. Mm-hmm. He's come through, housing estates like you and me.
There's no many of them left.
He wasn't born with this opportunity. He created the opportunity through his hard work and his ability. He was never done any favours. That's what happens, and he's worked his way into the point where... the pinnacle probably of his career, or I would guess, would be the 2 goals against England. No one else in Scottish football, no other Scottish footballer could have done what he did that day. No other Scottish footballer. Now, since he's been at the side, we can't even take a corner. Now, McGregor's taking the corners on one side, the other ones, they're playing it short. Leigh Griffiths could take a corner for either side. The guy, for his talent alone, Kevin, I want to see him back. Now, let's say he's 90% fit at the moment. We can get him 100% fit. He will score goals. He will cause problems on the park, the right problems for other opposition teams. It's like, El Yunusi might be a forward. We've got Leigh Griffiths here. Leigh Griffiths, we know he's an out-and-out goal scorer. That's what he does. That's what he thrives on.
For me, there's a difference between getting him fit and getting him firing on all cylinders. There's 2 differences there. There's a mindset difference, and this is where, and I don't want to say that in a bad way. Well, would Leigh Griffiths sit on that Celtic bench knowing full well that he's 4th choice?
I think that would fire him up.
Would he react to that?
I think positively.
You're taking the gamble on how does he react to that? He could go in the huff.
I don't think he will.
He might not, but he could.
Because
this Celtic Football Club is the biggest club that Leigh Griffiths is ever going to play for. He knows that. Mm-hmm. He knows that he's now 30. He knows that he's now in the last chance. I don't know how many last chances that one guy actually needs. And Neil Lennon, John Kennedy and Gavin Strang have got to rely on everybody in that squad. And the evidence, either made up in my head or the number of appearances that they've made over the last 18 months, points to the fact that Leigh and Tom Roddick can't be relied on. And I'm sorry to say that. It pains me to say that. My heart, it feels like somebody's putting a dagger into my heart when I'm actually saying that. But sometimes the coaches are not going to make any decisions like on nostalgic, romantic-based notions, which we can sit here and fire out. They're going to have a look at hard facts.
Yeah, you can look at facts. You can also look at instincts. You can also look at attitude. Tom Roddick's 27, right? Leigh Griffiths is 30. They're not over the hill yet.
No.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of football to be played by both of them. If I was the manager, I'd do 2 things. I would urge Tom Roddick to retire from international football, and I would urge Leigh Griffiths to retire for social media. That's what I would do. And concentrate on your game for Celtic, 100% committed to Celtic. And I'm not saying that they're not, but I mean, we both know that Tom Roddick's trips to Australia and back certainly haven't helped his Celtic career.
No.
Right? And what you get there is you get 2 players who can contribute to 5 tournaments that we're in this season. And if we want to, let's say we want to win a treble, right? Or we want to win a treble plus complete last season's treble. Leigh Griffiths can contribute to that. Tom Roddick can contribute to that. Now, at this moment, there are no first picks, nowhere near it. How would they react? Well, we've seen how Leigh Griffiths has reacted already. And if you look at last season's situation with Leigh, with the mental health issues, right? I think the club have been supportive of him. I think he reacted well to that and he got back into the side. This season's a wee bit different because that, as far as I'm aware, hasn't been cited as a reason for Leigh not being in the squad. If it's just a bit of discipline with the social media thing, if it's just a wee bit of a lack of fitness, you can overcome them, Kevin. You can overcome that. You know, that's not something, that's not career threatening. Mental health issues is a career threatening injury is. But what, as far as we're aware, Leigh has suffered from this season is a calf strain and being a wee bit unfit when the club went to France, and then the social media indiscretion. That's it. That can be overcome. Tommy Roderick, he was almost out the door. He's maybe had a second thought about the fact that sounded like semi-retirement to me, where he was going.
Going to the league that he was going.
He can contribute a lot more. And I'm not being too over sentimental or romantic about thinking back to 2017 and all the rest of it. He's only 27.
He is only 27, but maybe more so Rogic than Leigh Griffiths. But we need to balance the books. We've spent quite a bit of money. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. We've got no fans in the stadium. We've got 56,000 season books, or how many that we've sold, but we're still missing match day revenue. The club has still taken a massive hit to the finances, and these books are going to be balanced somehow. And when you're looking at that, when you look at the midfield options that we've got, then a player that's played 32 games over the last 2 seasons is one of the first names to go out the door, no matter if they can contribute or not.
And they've tried to put
him out the door.
Yeah.
And for me, it could maybe be that Lennon's saying, "Oh, we're welcome back into the squad," is just basically a manager paying lip service, because a manager can't say in public, "This guy's got no future at this football club," because the player's value then goes down. You look at that team. It started on Saturday. Ayer, Encham and Eddie. The 3 of them might not be there by October the 5th.
We'll talk about that. We'll definitely discuss that, Kevin, because the prospect of that is unthinkable in my view. But we will talk about it because it is a possibility. Let's have a wee look at some of the comments that are coming in on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. And first up is Gary Doonan. Welcome back. You're commenting via Facebook. Gary, it's always great to hear from you. And what Gary says is, hope so, with the amount of games and competitions to play. And another striker comes in handy if a 3-5-2. Over 2 years ago, we had 3 when it was only 1 up. So I do think we do need the 4. We need 4 strikers you can rely on. Would Leigh Griffiths be happy being 4th choice? I don't think he'd be 4th choice for long. I think that's what I'm coming to. I don't think he'd be 4th choice for long. I've written Klimala down here because I want to discuss Klimala in more detail. I'm not giving him a hard time. I think I might have been quite harsh on him previously, Klimala, because I didn't think he was up to the standard. I still don't think he's at the level of Leigh Griffiths when it comes to being a striker. Klimala. I know he's worked hard. He's well conditioned. He's trying. He's coming in. He's answering the call and he's chipping in with a few goals. Is he a better option than Leigh Griffiths if Leigh's fit? No chance.
I'm not going to disagree with you there. Klimala's 22, hasn't got Leigh Griffiths' experience. He's never scored 40 odd goals in a season in the Scottish Premier League. Of course, looking at it on paper, that Leigh Griffiths is a better option than Patrick Klimala, but at this precise moment in time, Klimala's done nothing wrong. He's came in.
Missed a few sitters.
Leigh Griffiths has missed a few sitter. Eddie's missed a few sitters. Strikers miss sitters.
I know that.
That's part and parcel of being
20 minutes to go against Rangers at Ibrox, 1-on-1 Klimala. Are you backing him?
Aye.
You think?
Definitely.
Right, we'll see. Might happen.
Definitely.
It might happen. And I'm not criticising him. I'm looking at the whole squad. I'm looking at how we can improve. There's been a few departures over the last few weeks. A couple of young guys have gone out, Kevin. Bolingoli's gone out. And did I think we were going to transfer him? Well, he's got a good move for himself to Istanbul.
Definitely.
He's playing in the Champions League.
He's got a great agent, His agent's worked wonders there.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
He's done well. But it does raise a question, the fact that we've only got 1 left back in this squad. And we're talking about personnel. We're talking about having the depth of squad that could lead you into 5 different competitions this season. We're going to need it. We've seen it already. You know, flip a coin, we don't have a striker for an important game in Europe. That's how quickly these things can turn on their head. There might be another argument that we need another goalie. You just never know how that's going to work out. We've seen situations, even this week, where people need an emergency goalkeeper. We've seen that in Europe over the years, Kevin, where clubs need an emergency goalkeeper. You'd be far happier with 3. We've only got 2. You're looking at the left-back situation. We've only got 1. Right-back situation isn't much better, to be honest. You know, people still say Frimpong's right-back. I don't think he is. El Hamid's a right-back. Anthony Ralston is still at Celtic. He's a right-back. Is he an option?
Doesn't it look that way?
It doesn't seem to be part of the squad, the first team squad. So there's an argument, if such a thing were to exist, that you could buy a fullback who can play either side. It's a wee bit harder to get these days, isn't it? But Bolingoli, he's gone. I was getting everybody to prepare for him coming back in hoops. It's not going to happen. What do we do? Where do we go from here? There's been a few names linked to Celtic over the last few weeks.
I agreed with you. I was preparing myself for him to come back as well, because, as I said last Monday when I was in, you could have got to a point where you were trying to sign left backs and you eventually get so far down your list that the one that you're going to bring in is not at the level of Bolingoli. And I know people out there will go, well, he wasn't at a very good level anyway, but that's not the point. The point is that you would get to the point where the coaching staff would be looking at a player going, well, we've got a better player sitting there. And so with him going, you've got to say that the club are confident of bringing in another left back.
Yeah.
Are the club confident of bringing in their first choice left back at the top of that list? I watched PSG v Marseille last night, and Bakker didn't play. They played the Spaniard Bernard. That was a very interesting game. I'm sure quite a lot of the viewers actually watched it. There was 5 sending offs in it and a bit of a stramash at the end.
A stramash. Good word.
And Neymar was one of the people that got sent off, which is always pleasing to see.
Especially when we've mentioned Ralston in this show.
Yes.
His wee pal.
So PSG have only got 2 left backs. So Bakker might be having a look at that going, I've got a chance here of getting game time at PSG. So he might want to stay there. I watched Liverpool against Leeds on Saturday night as well, and the boy Douglas wasn't in the squad, wasn't even on the subs bench. So what does that say about his chances of getting any game time at Leeds United? Even though Beasley has been quite open and honest that he says he wants the player to stay. He's an important part of the dressing room, but he wasn't even stripped for their opening game on Saturday night. I still like Greg Taylor. I do. I would have him in the team on Wednesday night to add that a bit more defensive solidity.
So you'd still play with 3 at the back, though?
I would still play with 3 at the back, but I'd put Taylor as the left wing back.
Would you?
I didn't think we were as open down the right hand side as what we were down the left hand side. So we are looking for another left back. For all we maybe want to sit here and say that Frimpong is a winger, the coaching staff see him as a right back, as a right wing back. So we've got to count him as a right wing back, a right back. El Hamid's there as well, so we have got 2. If you're looking at that squad, we signed Frimpong as a right back. So you've got to say that we've got
Just because
2.
we sign him as a right back, he's far more effective as a right winger.
Maybe that's why we see him more in the right wing back role than what we do as
his defensive qualities, Kevin, and I
do
don't
you think
like
his final ball is there for to be a winger? That was the reason that he was converted to a right back in the first place.
I think when you look at his assists, if you look at his assists against his appearance